Let me tell you something. Nothing wakes you up faster than the sound of police sirens echoing across a lake you supposedly own. There, I was minding my business by my truck keys dangling in my hand, sun going down, thinking maybe I'd finally found peace by the water. Instead, I've got Officer Daniels standing on my dock, red and blue lights dancing on the ripples, and the queen of all Karen's clipboard in one hand shouting, "Arrest him, he's trespassing on HOA property." Can you picture that? That's how my quiet evening turned into a circus, and honestly, it was just getting started. Now, before you start thinking I'm the bad guy here, let me back up a sec, because I know how stories in neighborhoods like this can get twisted. 2 months earlier, I'd moved into Meta Ridge Lake Estates, just a guy with a small construction business and a dream of owning a little piece of water, maybe teaching my old dog Bruno how to fetch a stick in the shallows. I did my homework. This lake, tucked behind a tangle of ranches and HOA playgrounds, wasn't on their books anymore. The HOA let their control lease expire 2 decades ago. I bought it fair and square from the county with every dusty document to prove it. Did I buy it to start a fight? Heck no! I bought it because I love quiet mornings, the smell of water, that feeling of possibility. But nothing draws attention like fixing something folks forgot they ever wanted, especially when you've got an HOA president who thinks the word no doesn't apply to her. Enter Karen Reynolds, late 20s, always in a powder blue suit clipboard, welded to her hand like a knight's shield. She showed up 3 days after I moved in, smile so tight it could snap in half. "I hope you've read the guidelines," she said, flipping through her folder like she was about to grade my homework. "There are rules about dock renovations and water access." I tried to be polite, really I did. "This dock's not under HOA control. I bought the lake." She laughed in my face real loud. "You can't own a lake." "Apparently you can if you know which federal codes to read." That did not go over well. The next day I found a neon orange violation notice nailed to my fence. "Unauthorized construction. Fines applied daily." Signed, you guessed it, Karen Reynolds. I grabbed the note and went straight to the HOA office, which looked suspiciously like someone's grandma's living room, only with more courtroom energy. Karen's smile was all teeth. "You got my note." "Yeah," I said, "but you might want to take it back before this gets embarrassing." She tried to stare me down, but I had my documents. The Federal Code 33 CFR highlighted in yellow, and a whole lot of patience. "You can't just throw federal codes around," she snapped. "I printed them for you," I said. Section 328.3, Public Record. Now you'd think that would be enough, right? But if you've ever dealt with a truly stubborn HOA, you know logic doesn't stand a chance against pride. Karen doubled down, told neighbors I was stealing the lake, left anonymous notes on my truck, whispered to anyone who'd listen that I was ruining the view. Still, I kept to myself, fishing in the mornings, working on the dock, baking in the Texas sun. But it never stopped. One afternoon, she blocked my gravel delivery, standing in front of a terrified driver yelling, "This is HOA land." I just stood there trying not to laugh. This gravel's for erosion control. As the owner, it's my job to maintain safety. She called the cops, of course. Within minutes, here comes Officer Daniels, cool as a cucumber. "All right, what's the issue this time?" Karen's finger was practically vibrating in my direction. "He's trespassing." I handed Daniels my folder. He flipped through, sighed, and looked at her. "Ma'am, this lake is his. The HOA's got no jurisdiction. If looks could kill, I'd have dropped dead right there." But here's where it gets wild. Karen's son, Ethan Kids, got more horsepower than brains, decided he'd reclaim the lake by revving his jet ski straight through my floating gate, waving an HOA flag like it was D-Day. The whole neighborhood was out filming, phones everywhere. And then, wouldn't you know it, the kid clipped a submerged post, flipped, and suddenly we're all sprinting to save him. I dove in without thinking, cut him loose from the rope he'd tangled around his ankle, hauled him back, coughing and bleeding, but alive. Karen was right there, mascara running, voice breaking. "You could have let him drown," she said, voice shaking. And for a second, I just stared at her. "That's not how life works," I told her, trying to catch my breath. You don't repay hate with hate. She didn't thank me, of course not. Just glared and stormed off, but not before the whole street saw her lose her cool. You'd think that might change something, right? For about 5 minutes it did. Then I started seeing black SUVs parked across the road, men in suits reviewing property lines, HOA workers sneaking onto my land at dawn to hammer in fake public access signs. I'd walk out coffee in hand and say, "Did they send the court order with that sign?" And they'd pack up and leave muttering, "Every day, another game, another..." And just when I thought it couldn't get dumber, Bayview Development Group rolled into town, slick suits, big promises, fancy brochures. "We'd like to discuss a business proposal," they said, all smiles. I laughed right in their faces. Not for sale, not now, not ever. But they weren't there to make friends. Within a week, the HOA was holding community partnership meetings, flyers everywhere, trying to sell everyone on a vision of lakeside condos and private beaches so long as I got out of the way. One night I caught 2 guys in Bayview jackets breaking into the old pump shed, fiddling with the water controls. They claimed they were just surveying, but the padlock was busted, the valve cracked open. They tried to sneak off, but not before I got their faces on my phone and called Daniels, who, bless him, came down in the middle of the night, took one look and said, "This is sabotage." But even that didn't stop them. Next thing I know, Karen's going full smear campaign, Facebook posts, local news interviews, even drone footage of me endangering the community. People started crossing the street when they saw me muttering about outsiders. Meanwhile, I'm up to my neck in legal notices, court hearings, county inspections, all orchestrated to wear me down. Then, just as the storm peaked, my lawyer Alvarez uncovered the smoking gun, forged documents, emails from Karen and Bayview, plotting to fake environmental hazards and seize the lake for community safety. That was it. We turned it all over to the district attorney, and suddenly the tide shifted. Channel 9 showed Karen and Mark Holloway from Bayview led away in handcuffs, faces pale as winter. You'd think I felt victorious, but honestly, it just felt quiet. For the first time in months, I stood on my dock with Bruno, watching the moon dance on the water, and breathed out. The air smelled like rain, sharp and clean the way it does after a storm passes. I ran my hand through the water, whispering, "We made it, old friend." But here's the thing. Peace is fragile. The next morning, someone had hammered orange stakes into the ground, claiming a new boundary. I laughed, a little bitter, but also a little hopeful, because now the world was watching and they'd left a paper trail a mile long. Maybe it's naive, but I still believe the truth matters. So long as you stand your ground, document everything, and don't let fear own your story. Now I gotta ask, have you ever tangled with a neighbor or an HOA who just couldn't let go? What would you have done if you were in my boots? Drop your wildest story or your thoughts about right and wrong in the comments. Because in a world full of Karens and developers, sometimes all you've got is your voice and a good dog by your side. If you made it this far, hit that like button, share where you're watching from, and don't forget, stand your ground, no matter how wild the storm gets.